Yo, what's going on everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explained here, bringing you guys the review for Boruto episode 158, or like I'm gonna be calling it, the car actuation arc episode number 2. And I know a lot of people are worried that this was gonna be a slice of life or a random filler episode, and that's not the case. Like, once you watch this episode, you realize very quickly that this is not some random let's go find a missing person type of mission. There's something deeper that's going into this, and that's actually the pun intended, because the episode opens up with the new member of Car, this character named Deepa, appearing at the entrance of the land of valleys, and he just jumps all the way in there, and you see him eating some type of fruit. It's not gonna be a chocolate fruit. I've already seen people saying it's chocolate fruit, but he's eating some type of fruit before he descends into the land of valleys. So the fact of the matter is that they let you know very early on that Car does have a connection to the events of what's going to be happening in this land. And what I really like about this is that it kind of goes back to what Kodachi had been saying as far back as December, saying that Car's web goes extremely deep and that the 5 great nations are unaware of it. Right now we have 2 inner members who are in the land of valleys, and the only person who suspects it is Muji No. And this should be something right here that kind of opens your eyes up to the fact that, like I've been saying, when it comes to the outer members, you don't know who they are, but when it comes to inner members, you have members like Victor who are hiding in plain sight and nobody even realizes it. So I gotta give them credit for this. They're doing a good job of setting up things that are going to be revealed later on in the series as we get closer to the Owl arc and as we get closer to the Car arc of the Boruto manga. And so I'd like to point your attention to a couple of things they established very quickly early on. Like, number one, the fact that, you know, Victor had his body repaired using ninja tech, and most importantly that they're trying to find ways to promote self-healing and everything. Those are abilities that we know certain members of Car have, and also we know that when they start talking about how they're pouring money into prosthetics, there's another character who has not been revealed in the anime yet who had his entire side on some Obito stuff basically destroyed in the last war, and essentially his whole body gets recreated out of prosthetics. And so when you start looking at those prosthetics, it's really ninja tech. So that kind of goes back to it. Car has been operating in secret for a very long time, and now they're getting bold. They're moving out into the open. So I like that you see this right here. I also like how the episode opens up and you have Sasuke taking efforts to protect Boruto, and even Sasuke admits, like, hey, you know, I know it seems mundane for you to be going out on these missions, but you need the experience. You can't accompany me on the missions that I'm going on. And he even says, like, look, that karma steel you got, it attracts attention, but the fact of the matter is that you need more experience. Don't make the mistake I did. I left the village when I should have been here gaining more experience. And so what I like here is that Sasuke is taking the time to actually teach Boruto. And what I also like is the fact that, you know, when Sasuke says, like, hey, you know, you're actually taking the time to train yourself, you know, Boruto is still that character at this point in the timeline. He's still that character that looks for other people to teach him the shortcuts. That's one of the things that Sasuke is teaching him, is the fact that you have to struggle to learn jutsu and mechanics on your own and make them your own. Don't wait for everybody to give you the answer. So I thought that aspect of it was cool. Now, the other thing that I'll definitely say is that when it comes to this new character of Muji No, it's gonna be really easy to write him off. It's like, oh, he's complete fodder. And if you know him from the manga, you know what happens to him. So you know that he has an important role later on in the story. However, what I will say is that this episode, like a lot of the episodes we've been getting over really the last 6 weeks, they've been paying homage and making references to stuff that Kodachi's either said in interviews or a different source material that we've been getting. And so one thing that I made a video on was talking about how Konohamaru, the reason why he's not on all these missions with Team 7 is the fact that Konohamaru's on a very short roster of ninja that Naruto allows to go on missions either by themselves or they go on missions on a 2-man team. And Muji No, based on everything we learned in this episode, Muji No is one of those characters who's on that list as well. And that explains why Konohamaru says, like, I know he's a bit rough around the edges, but, you know, Muji No, he saved my life a couple of times. That's also foreshadowing for something that's going to happen later on. Like I talked about in that Konohamaru video, when Naruto sends those characters on those special 2-man missions, they're very dangerous missions that get pulled out. That way they don't get sent to ninja who are are less than capable of handling them. Even regular Jonin don't get these missions. What I like is the fact that they take time out to explain to a lot of the younger viewers that, hey, just because the 5 great nations are at peace, it does not mean that there's peace in the ninja world. And that's something I've been talking about recently in the video about Naruto's broken promise. And I said, like, hey, you know, Naruto does not have time to monitor every ninja village, big and small, to make sure that everything is peaceful. And so that kind of also goes back to what I talked about way back when I did a video on the Shinobi Union Explained. You know, Kakashi understood that it's not enough to have the 5 great nations by themselves trying to spearhead this peace. You need to bring in the other ninja villages as well to prevent another scenario like a pain showing up in some faraway village. And so what the Shinobi Union's whole purpose was to reach out to nations big and small, and then equally spread out the work between all the nations and between a roster with all these ninja. Now things have been tweaked now that Naruto is the Hokage, but the fact of the matter is that these smaller nations, only a couple of them actually took the chance. A lot of them were mistrustful of the 5 great nations, and for good reason. That's why you have that line where Victor says, you shinobi love to give your wars numbers to anybody growing up in these lands. Those wars were just part of everyday life. So you're seeing how characters from outside the 5 great nations actually view them, and I thought that that was a very nice touch there. I also thought that this was a good opportunity to give Boruto, and as well as a lot of the younger viewers that are starting the franchise via Boruto, an opportunity to understand that things are about to get dark, but a lot of that darkness comes from mistakes that are made in the past. That's why you have that cliche expression, if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it. So I thought that that was cool. I also thought that the character Mia, I thought that she was very relatable. I thought she was very relatable. You know, I know it can seem like it's a bit overdone that she's continually going to check for updates and everything, but you know, one thing I can definitely say is that if you look at, you know, these mothers who go to police stations and request information on their kids, or you know, once their kid's been missing for a while, they get very restless. This is her husband's missing, and it's already shady. So at this point, she's done waiting for answers. Now she's starting to get agitated. So I thought that it was cool. I thought that it said a lot about the strength of her character, which it's gonna be really hard to understand this if you haven't lost somebody that you actually love. But she's not laying down and taking it. That's why she reached out and she contacted Konoha to try and find somebody that can get her the actual truth. She went through backwater channels to do it. So I thought that that was cool. I also want to give credit to Mitsuki. I thought that what Mitsuki did by using a snake to get the location, that was very good. However, because they don't know the full scope and the politics of the land that they're in, they end up walking into a trap. And so essentially, once they get into a situation where they're interacting with Victor, they're actually giving Victor information that he's gonna need, because at the end of the day, that still is a character that you have to watch. Okay, you have to watch this character. And what I like is the fact that Muji No is the only one who realizes that there's more to Victor. Victor is not what he seems. Boruto does have a nasty habit of, once people say stuff, Boruto tends to just go along with it unless it's something blatantly obvious that, hey, they have ulterior motives. Boruto kind of goes with his gut, much like his father did. But the fact of the matter is that naive nature, we're in the process of seeing Boruto's naive view of the world starting to be shattered now. That's why these upcoming arcs are so important, because we're in this prologue now, but we're rapidly approaching the end of the prologue where Kara officially meets and they start talking about the vessel. We're not there yet, but now we're getting the information that's going to build us up towards that. So I thought that that aspect of it was cool. I like how when they do get that moment, they speak to Victor. You know, Victor does a good job of just lulling the members of Team 7 into that false sense of security. But the two people who I feel were onto him, obviously, like I said before, was Muji No, and then the other character was ironically Konohamaru, because Konohamaru asked a bunch of follow-up questions as well. That kind of shows you that for as talented as Boruto and Team 7 are, they still have intangibles they need to learn. That ties all the way back into what Sasuke said in the beginning of the episode, saying that you still have things that you need to learn. There's still stuff that you can't carry with you onto the battlefield if you go on missions with me. Boruto, if he went with Sasuke, would only slow Sasuke down. What you're gonna see with Boruto is that Boruto's mold is gonna begin to break, and you're gonna start seeing a more serious Boruto. It's not gonna happen right away in this prologue, but once we get out of the prologue, that's when you're gonna see that serious Boruto come out. So, you know, that soft nature of Boruto, that is gradually being reworked. So I thought that, you know, them including little small aspects like that in this episode was really good. Now, when it comes to Victor and he's looking over these roots that are in there, if you had any type of thoughts like, oh man, this looks like it might be wood style, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. It's not been confirmed, but I can tell you just based off of information I have, as well as just looking at it, it really appears to be wood style. And what I really like is the fact that they're setting up smaller stuff. And one other thing is that I like how they're letting Boruto know, like, you really have had a spoiled life. Boruto's understanding that this life that he's grown up with a lot of luxuries that he's taken for granted. Go back to when they go to the underground market that exists inside of Konoha, and then go back to when they went on the Byakuya Gang arc missions, and Boruto realized that there was a portion of the Land of Fire and a portion of the Leaf Village that was essentially dealing with poverty. That was stuff that Boruto never had experienced because Boruto's never had to want for anything. So I like how we're getting more of that stuff right there, and that kind of goes back into what Kodachi said, that Car really on the outskirts, Car is dealing with medical devices and using the medical advances that people like Sakura's made to push product onto the black market. So we're starting to see like the little small undertones starting to be brought into the anime, much like Kodachi was talking about. And this is going to be my chapter question to you guys. Essentially, Boruto identifies himself within minutes of meeting Victor as being the Hokage's son. Within minutes. Now, the reason why that's important is you're not supposed to give your identity when you're on a mission. You can say you're a Konoha ninja, but you're not supposed to give your rank away unless it's to defuse the situation. Even then, you're supposed to be selective with it, and you're not supposed to give away any identifying information. Somebody says, oh, well, Boruto's got whiskers. Yes, Boruto has whiskers, he has blonde hair, but just like people didn't know that Naruto was Minato's son, even though his last name is Uzumaki and he had blonde hair, you can't ever assume certain things, especially in a world like this where people can use transformation jutsu and alter their appearance and everything. This is one of those things where you don't want to confirm who you are, and Boruto doing something like that, that's going to be closer and closer to putting himself on Kara's radar. So my chapter question for you guys is, do you agree with Sasuke? Do you think that Boruto is still a little too soft and a little too naive to be going on these missions? And what are your thoughts about Muji No, as well as what are your thoughts about how Victor and Deepa were presented in this episode? Let me know down in the comment section below. But as always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching until the end. Have an awesome day, guys.